Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's joint webinar between Medianet Insights and Ruepoint. Thank you so much for taking the time today to be part of our wonderful session. This webinar is in support of AMEC Measurement Month. Now, for those of you that perhaps aren't familiar with AMEC, AMEC is the International Association for the Measurement and Evaluation of Communication. Yes, that's quite a mouthful, but it is the world's largest media intelligence and insights professional body. AMEC's role, amongst other things, is to promote and educate about the importance of media insights and analysis. And every year it holds Measurement Month as a way of doing that educational remit. I am Amrita Sidhu, the Managing Director of Medianet, and I also have the great privilege of sitting on the AMEC International Board of Directors. Today, we're going to be talking about how to move from insights to influence, how to use the art of effective marketing in communication measurement. And I'm really happy today to be joined by two of the smartest, most talented marketers I know, Thomas Patenall from Medianet and Iskren Lilov from Ruepoint. Now, I'm going to briefly let them both say hi and tell us a little bit about their respective organizations. And guys, you're both marketers, so let's have that in marketing speak, please. All right, over to you first, Thomas.
Thanks, Amrita, and hey, everyone. I've actually been in marketing for a bit over 6 years now, but I was first introduced to the whole world of insights about 2 years ago. Medianet Insights has never had a dedicated marketing team before. So I was actually given the opportunity to kind of lead marketing for the very first time. Since then, we've done a full rebrand. So actually used to be known as Mediaverse. So we've rebranded to Medianet Insights. We've created plenty of really engaging content and even implemented a whole new marketing approach that's kind of changed the way that we talk to our audience. And you actually get to see a bit of a sneak peek into this later today.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, Iskren, give us your best marketing elevator pitch, please. An introduction to yourself.
Thank you very much, Amrita. First of all, I want to congratulate you and Medianet on a very successful night at the AMEC Awards, which of course was a great celebration of communication and measurement and the good work that you guys do there. Yeah, my name is Iskren and I'm the marketing manager of Ruepoint, and much like Thomas, I am in a position that when I started the company, we didn't really have a dedicated marketing team. So we had to build this up from the ground, and we actually created a very solid foundation. Ruepoint is now a global media intelligence company that can provide full scale global services. And we are very happy to have over 450 clients trusting us in the 6 years of operations that we have, I will also hope to be useful to the audience with some of the practical examples of how we managed to create sustainable and engaging brand for our audience from zero marketing to an impressive digital presence. So looking forward to sharing insights.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you both for your introductions there. So yes, you've both given us a bit of a sneak peek into what we are going to cover today, but let's just recap on that for the audience, what they can expect in terms of what our discussion today will include. So we are going to break down with your assistance the challenges of marketing and marketing strategies in the PR measurement and communication measurement industry. Quite often thought of as a legacy industry by some, I know. Thomas and Iskren, I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys debate and discuss those challenges and opportunities. As you both said, you're going to then give us a bit of a sneak peek into practical marketing execution and approaches that you've done, how you did it, and really why they worked. And then finally, I'm really confident everyone in the audience here is going to get some really strong key takeaways and actionable items that you can take back into your own organization. Now, before I pass over to Thomas to get started, if you have any questions at all along the way, please put them into the question panel on your screen that you can see there now. And we will have some time for some Q&A at the end, and we will do our absolute best to get to all those questions. All right, Thomas, get us started.
Yeah, thank you. So I've actually had a few discussions with Iskren in the past, and even just preparing for this webinar, we found there's a lot of key challenges that both of us are facing. We're on different sides of the globe, and we're still coming across the same challenges. So after a few bit of discussion, we managed to narrow it down to 3 that we really want to cover today, and hopefully there'll be a lot of value that you'll get out of this. But the main challenge that both of us saw was the education and awareness of kind of the value of insights within the market. So this is a key challenge that I know both of us have come across. And even if you're not in the communication measurement industry, I'm sure this is still applicable to a lot of different industries where the market has a bit of a lack of education and awareness of the value that you deliver. We also have this challenge where we're dealing with insights becoming a bit of an afterthought. So a lot of companies are leaving insights to the end of their marketing strategy as almost like an obligation, rather than building it into their core strategy and using it to kind of guide their direction. And the last one that we want to cover isn't specific to the communication measurement industry, but it's definitely something that's seen, I think, in marketing in general. There's this constant battle between generating leads versus generating demand, for what you do. So that's a pretty exciting topic, and I'm excited to share that with everyone. But I'll kick off with education and awareness as one of the main challenges that we come across. I think within this challenge, there's almost a subset that we find within the communication measurement industry. And it's this heavy reliance that the market has on media monitoring, and this misconception that it's really enough to deliver the insights that you need for your media strategy. I think anyone that's been in this industry, we know if you want to get real insights, you need people to do them. And a lot of media monitoring is AI based, so it definitely has its use cases and its strengths, but delivering on insights is somewhere where it lacks a bit. And so when we're looking at our marketing, we approach this fairly carefully, and we really want to bring awareness to the differences between what media monitoring delivers and what insights can deliver, and the value that each of these have within them. Now, Iskren, I know we've spoken about this challenge quite a lot in the past, and a lot of the marketing that we do definitely addresses this, but how has this challenge been for you? How are you dealing with it?
Well, especially working on the global market, you see a very particular trend. First of all, most comms professionals, even that work for legacy companies, well, we will come to the conversation about legacy versus new wave, let's say, media intelligence. But the legacy companies are still a little bit stuck in the mindset that media monitoring is the only thing that exists on the market. You buy media monitoring, while, for example, us as Ruepoint, we are branding ourselves as well as a media intelligence company, which furthermore, we try to communicate every time that we talk that we are more than media monitoring, and we want to educate why this is important. Especially one of the most difficult things to achieve, and a lot of our clients actually challenge us with this question, is that for example, they receive a very, let's say, low offer from a SaaS provider of media monitoring services, which is fully automated, AI generated, so on and so on, all of these buzzwords that we currently hear all the time. But then they come, okay, why your offer is so much higher, for example, than them? What is the value of what you bring to the table? So that's part of the education that we are really pushing for, to get an understanding out to the market that human insights and the human element is the one that is helping you grow your business, is helping you get actionable insights, the ones that you can after that implement directly into your campaign and see positive data-based results. Of course, AI is a great tool that we, of course, embrace, and we will never say, no, we go against the flow or something like this, but it is a tool that would help the human brain and the human consultancy and insights, not replace it. So I think it's a very important dynamic right now, especially with the rise of large language learning models, that we need to be aware of this and that we need to educate as much as possible that the value of the human input here is actually very much greater than just the technology.
I definitely agree. I think understanding the value that you get out of each of the solutions, as I mentioned before, each solution has their strong points. Using AI and media monitoring, you can definitely achieve specific things, but when we're looking at insights, you're getting a lot more value when you're getting it from humans. I'll jump into the second challenge that we've been facing. So as I mentioned earlier, we do see insights treated as an afterthought, when in reality, it's a bit of an afterthought that needs to come first. Unless it's been built into the core of the strategy, it's a lot harder to keep your strategy going in the right direction. If you leave it to the end, you might have to take yourself on a bit of a detour to get back on track. Whereas if it's in your strategy, you can keep it going in the right direction much earlier on. Something we've also seen in the market, Amrita mentioned earlier that we are dealing with almost a bit of a legacy market. A lot of insights companies have been around for quite a while. So a lot of the marketing that I've seen, especially when I first came on board, has focused pretty heavily on the technical side of what we do. All of us want to become thought leaders, and in doing so, a lot of the language that we've been using has been technical and very jargon focused. But you're really just creating this big gap between yourself and your audience. So when we came on board, one thing I really wanted to do was to make insights more accessible. So a lot of the language that we're starting to introduce to insights, and I've definitely seen Ruepoint doing the same thing, is simplifying the language to make it accessible to an audience who doesn't quite understand the value of what we do or the specifics that come with insights. We actually caught up yesterday, Iskren and I remember we had a pretty long discussion about these legacy businesses and how that's impacted a lot of the marketing that we've seen. Iskren, you actually made a really good point about Ruepoint, and I thought it would be pretty interesting to share that today. So Ruepoint's been around for a little while, but it's still fairly young in the market compared to everyone else. And I know that your marketing really reflects this. Could you share a little bit more about that? I think it'd be really beneficial.
Of course. Well, you said it well. Ruepoint has been around for 6 years in total. However, just 1.5 years ago, we actually went on the global market. We are backed by the expertise of some incredible professionals who have been in the industry for over 15, 20 years. Our co-founders have always worked in the media intelligence and media monitoring industries. So it's not a lack of experience, but it's a new approach towards this industry. As you also very well pointed out, a lot of the marketing jargon, a lot of the words that we hear from legacy and established brands in the field are very technical. They are very difficult for the average comms professional, for example. While speaking on a human level, we see one of the biggest challenges of this entire industry, the communication professionals and the PR industry, is that it's been historically incredibly undervalued. If we can think that if an organization starts going down, who is the first to get fired, for example? Who is the first to make layoffs? Marketing, communications, because they are seen as something which is less important, let's say, or something that brings less value. But then how to counteract this claim if you are a communication professional? Because it's been incredibly difficult to measure the exact impact of communication and to actually show the return on investment, to show why this activity, why do you invest so much in this activity? What does it concretely bring to the table and to the business in terms of growth, revenue, leads, everything? It's been very difficult to pinpoint. And that is how we position media intelligence in our understanding. It is a tool to help comms professionals demonstrate the value of their work, because the value of their work is very important and it's been undervalued. So media intelligence is this tool that can help you monitor and present your results accurately to the board, and to everyone who might question the need for PR, for example, in their organization. Because a lot of organizations are like that, especially smaller ones and ones that are having some financial troubles. So that is how we move away from speaking about the technology itself and then speaking towards the person using the technology, the person who is actually affected most by what we do, and the person that we are doing it for at the end of the day, because we bring services to the PR and comms community. And I'm very much aware of as well as Medianet is utilizing this language as well. And I'm very happy to see. That's why I think we have such a great understanding to begin with, is that we think not in terms of our technology is amazing, our tech guys are the best, because, well, they are. I mean, it is true. Of course they are. But everybody is very much caught up on technology in these days, while the difference is on the human level. And that is how we approach communication and marketing in general in Ruepoint.
Great, thank you. Guys, I just want to jump in here with a question and pick up on this, an afterthought that comes first headline, which Iskren, I love when you said that the other day as well. I was like, boom, mic drop moment. But how I've been talking about it a little bit is trying to get our clients and trying to get those PR and comms professionals you're talking about, switch their approach from insights and these kind of measurable results being a rear view mirror, like something you look at, before you accelerate out, and rather seeing them as GPS, signposts to help you get to where you want to go, which is what the GPS does, right? And it course corrects along the way, depending on traffic, depending on what's happening, so obstacles or opportunities that come to get you to your route faster. So that move from the rear view mirror to it actually being something that helps you get your true north. And I think that's really what you're both trying to say here with an afterthought that comes first. So from the marketing lens, when you're trying to educate your client or the comms professional, tell me what kind of tactics you both like to use. Is it about producing content and white papers? Is it about bite-sized chunks? Is it about reframing language? Like, tell me, is it about videos? What are the kinds of tools that you like to use individually to help with that real kind of mental shift that we're asking our clients and comms professionals to do? So Thomas, let's start with you.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a bit of a mix of almost everything that you've said. You want to create enough content that accessible content that your audience can understand. And everyone, consumes content differently. Some people prefer to read, others prefer to watch videos. So I think having a mix of different types of content is a great way of really getting your message across, but also making sure that that message is consistent across all these different pieces of content you create. There's no point putting out a blog post and then talking about something completely different on a video. You need to keep things consistent.
Love it. So marketing is the keepers of consistency, right, in the messaging. Thank you. Iskren, what are your thoughts on that review mirror versus GPS education piece?
Absolutely agree on that. And if I can expand on the point that Thomas already started, because I do agree that everyone needs different type of content. That is exactly why, especially in the B2B marketing community and the way that you do B2B marketing, it is all about trust. So our ultimate goal is trust. And how do we earn this trust? It almost becomes like a cycle, since you get people interested in your content, rather through ads, maybe through Google ads or LinkedIn ads or wherever you post them, or through organic content reach. But then they become interested in your business and they start visiting all of your content. So that doesn't matter if it's a website, a blog, LinkedIn post, Instagram reel, or video. That is how you build up trust. And here the point of consistency is extremely important, because all of these people are checking out all of these different pieces of content. And if these pieces of content, they don't speak to each other, then there is a confusion. And a person confused cannot trust you. So, of course, our entire strategy is based on this circular approach that you get people interested, then they delve deeper into your content, they start trusting you, then maybe you meet them at an event or an industry conference, and then you remarket them through remarketing targeting, for example, and you, let's say, make them jump into your brand and make them experience your brand from start to finish. So that is our ideology, and I think that very much coincides as well with what Thomas was saying.
Great tips there, guys. Thank you. And I think very practical things that you both mentioned there, which for the audience, would be usable in their own roles if they're trying to even educate their own clients about the need to shift mindset and stuff like that. So yeah, really great. Thank you. All right, Thomas.
Yeah. So I'll go on to, I guess, our last challenge, which is a pretty exciting one and a really big one that's changed one of the ways that we do a lot of marketing. So the last challenge that I want to cover definitely isn't something that is limited to the communication measurement industry. It's definitely more broad, and I think a lot of people in marketing will probably come across this at some point. But it's this constant battle that we have between generating leads versus generating demand. I think for such a long time, lead generation has been the gold standard, the default approach to marketing. But throughout, even throughout my studies and my previous work, I've followed this approach. We want to generate leads through often gated content. But the problem with this is the amount of friction that you generate in that process, and even how qualified a lead actually is when you're doing it. Gated content brings with it so many touch points and hoops that the customer has to, or the lead has to go through, to get to your content. And even then, at the end of the day, they might not even be ready to become a customer. They might just be, really interested in that single piece of content that you have. So I've actually got a scenario that will look familiar to probably most of you. So when you're bringing traffic to a landing page, you often have, a form to download your latest content. It could be a report or some sort of white paper. But you see this huge drop off between people landing on the page and people actually submitting the form. And even then, you might even see a drop off between people submitting the form and downloading your content. For whatever reason, it does happen. But then what if you took away that form? You actually start to see much less drop off between people landing on your page and people that are engaging with your content. So this is the power of demand generation. It flips this whole approach around to focus more on getting exposure to your content without generating any unnecessary friction throughout the process. I'm sure you can imagine tracking can be pretty difficult once you take on this approach. But the idea here is that leads will eventually come to you once they've consumed enough of your content and when they're ready to be talked to. So obviously this results in much higher quality leads than you would get otherwise. Now I know this can be pretty scary. We actually started experimenting with this last year. So throughout the year we published around 7 reports, with a mix of some of them being gated and others being ungated. And what we actually found was that our most successful ungated piece of content generated about 300% more engagement than our most successful gated report. And we actually saw this consistently with our other reports as well, with on average about 2 to 3 times more engagement with the ungated content that we produced. Iskren, I know that you're definitely preaching demand generation as well, and I've seen it a lot in Ruepoint. Do you see something similar with your content?
Definitely. So we don't have the typical types of gated content exactly for this reason. We do produce a lot of reports, and prior to us opening our business to the global stage and getting global clients, these reports were mostly disseminating through the sales team. So they were getting to potential clients, to leads, which were researched by an SDR person, and then they were sent by email and starting conversations from there. So that was the whole idea behind the outreach before, especially on our domestic market in Ireland. But since we started our global operations, we've been very active in producing global scale reports. And exactly due to the point about trust and people visiting your content, needing to consume as much more content from you as possible to trust you, we open this content to them. So there are no friction points in it. Of course, it's not impossible to measure the results of it. Even if it's a report that you don't really download, but rather view in your browser, for example, you can still track the number of clicks that you get on the site. You can add a property in Google Analytics and then remarket everyone who has clicked on your profile. So you could, for example, send ads to these people. So they're not lost, even because I think a bit of where the scary part comes is that people think that they come, they consume my content, and then they're lost. I cannot go back and get them as a lead, for example, but you can retarget them with ads. You can be very precise with that if you do your Google Analytics right. And we've seen quite positive impact from doing a lot of open content. We do have a new initiative coming up soon, which will be an entire live report, which is being updated in real time on our website, so everybody can come use it as a demo, for example, both in terms of quantitative metrics and qualitative reports, which are published every month on it with summaries. So, for example, that's a very interactive piece of content, which can bring your customer closer to your product, experience your product, and then ultimately, if your product is good, like your product. And then they will reach out by themselves, as you also pointed out very well. And I think that's the most valuable type of leads, because they are already ready to get your product. You don't need much convincing. Of course, the sales team does have their reach out, does have their lead generation as well on the back of our efforts as well. But we can produce inbound leads which are ready to become clients that way. And that, I think, saves a lot of hassle and saves a lot of effort, both from sales and marketing.
So guys, I think you've kind of answered this question, but I can see a question from one of the audience essentially asking, how do you manage this internally? And I think probably maybe what that question is trying to ask is, because I'm sure we're all hearing a whole bunch of sales managers who might be watching this, or marketing managers that are going to explain this to sales, going, oh my gosh, but what happens to my lead, right? I need that data. That's such a, as you said, Thomas, gold standard metric to measure marketing performance and sales performance. So when someone wants to start, the first bit of ungated content, what's the, you talked about some strategies there around tracking different metrics. What's the one metric you would try and convince someone internally, forget the leads, let's focus on this? Like, how do we manage this internally? Iskren, let's start with you. What would be your choice?
Well, I think it is the setting up your Google Analytics right. So you set up link clicks on how many times, of course, if you don't download it, then open it in a browser, but you can see how well it's performing. And then you can compare it, just like in the slide, on the number of views that you get. So you can see how engaging your content is, if your people are even interested in this type of content. Maybe you see a slight drop off and then you need to replace the content with something more relevant. That's something that we actually monitor quite closely. For example, on our website, we always monitor the activity on the pages itself, who clicks where, how many people click where, depending on the number of views that we have. And maybe if we see a drop down in clicks, a significant one, we then swap out, we try something different, we put a different piece of content, or we remove this section and create an entirely new one, just to make sure that our landing pages are as effective as possible and our content is as accurate and relevant as possible to our audience. So I think that's what you can explain and motivate the decision from going to gated to ungated content, that you can control this. It's not that it's lost. You can still get concrete numbers which can tell you a story. You can interpret them and then You can retarget them with ads if you want, and if you have a budget for this. And probably these ads will perform much better because they are all on already interested people rather than spray and pray tactics.
Yeah, great. So everyone who's watching this, you are going to get a copy of this recording, and anyone who's watching it subsequent, you're obviously watching the recording right now. So I would highly recommend you replay that part of what Thomas and Iskren have just said here a few times and make some notes if you are looking to internally educate about this move from generating leads to generating demand, because I can for sure say you do get higher quality leads that have a high intent to purchase. I will say, and I was skeptical myself as a senior business leader, or the first time this strategy was pitched to me, but let me say I am definitely in the converted category right now. So Thomas, anything to add on this bullet point before we move on?
Yeah. I think it's important to note that your end goal, whether it's lead generation or demand generation, it's still the same. You're still wanting to get people to the bottom of the funnel that are ready to convert.
Nice.
But in this stage, we're kind of skipping the middle to focus on increasing the number of highly qualified leads we're getting. So whilst you might get less low quality leads, you're getting more further down the funnel and in the future. And I think it's also important to note that if you start the strategy today, you're not going to see results tomorrow. This is a long-term process, and it's taken us 6 months to a year before we can start to actually see results. But as Amrita, you already mentioned, we did see, after that period of time, once we fully committed and kind of put a bit of trust into the process, we started to see the high quality leads coming in the end.
Great tips, guys. Thank you. Awesome.
All right, should we jump into our marketing approaches? I think I'm pretty excited about this one. Yes, I'll kick off with an approach that's really changed how we communicate and market to our audience. And that's using something that's called category creation. Now, I actually came across this concept in an umbrella talk about startups. So if you're not sure what Umbrella is, it's an industry body that's very popular in Australia amongst marketing, PR and comms professionals, and gives them a really good opportunity to learn from each other and engage with each other within the industry. But this concept, so when it was originally pitched, it was created for startups, but I definitely saw that there's some implications that we could take on board for marketing. And that's kind of what we started to do. So the idea behind category creation is that you want to create a new category for a market niche that addresses a problem in the market that the audience might not be aware of just yet. But it's also a great way to reframe a potentially existing solution that's in the market. But by successfully creating and marketing a niche to become hopefully a mainstream term in the end, you have this really unique opportunity to become this market leader for that category, and even the go-to association for that category. So once people start, searching for that category or talking about it, you're the first thing that comes up. Now, there's one example that I use pretty much every time I talk about category creation, and that's buy now, pay later, which I'm sure most of you on this call probably would have heard of already. But so whilst technically, buy now, pay later has been possible for quite a long time. You've got credit cards or bank loans that essentially do the same thing. This concept didn't really become mainstream until it started being pushed by companies like Afterpay and ZipPay. So if you fast forward till today, at least for myself, Afterpay is the first thing that comes to mind when someone says buy now, pay later. And that really is the power of category creation. So this whole approach, when we started to look into it, really starts with having an understanding of the problem in the market. So for us, which we've already mentioned this as one of the challenges, but that it was the lack of understanding and the heavy reliance that our market has on media monitoring to specifically track the success of their media campaigns. So that was the problem that we identified. From there, we started to look at a category name that we could use that aligns with that problem, and also explains the solution in the simplest way possible. So we actually had a couple of workshops in doing this, and we had a lot of back and forth, but we eventually landed on consultative insights, which in just 2 words really explains what our company does at the core. So once we have a bit of a understanding of the problem, we've got the category name that we can start to push. There were 3 stages that we really went through, and we still go through to launch the category into the market. So it all starts with problem awareness. So you've identified the problem internally. So next you need to really make your audience aware of it. The first pieces of content that we started producing for this approach really focused on bringing awareness to that problem. In our case, we were really attempting to change behavior within the market, and that takes a lot of education to do to get your market on board. So we focused quite a lot on this stage first and getting it right to make sure that we can make our audience aware of what the problem is. We then moved on to creating awareness of the solution. What can your audience do to solve that problem that you've been talking about? Now, I'm definitely not talking about your product here. This is talking about the category and explaining what that category is and how it solves that problem that you've been talking about. So we made specific effort to really mention and explain that category in more detail through our content here. And I think it's pretty important that you want to build an SEO profile around that category. Once it becomes mainstream, people are going to start searching for it, and you want to make sure that you're the first company that comes up when someone searches for that. And then finally, you can start to talk about your product. So your audience is aware of what the problem is and what the solution is. So you can start to pitch your product or service, whatever it might be. But obviously being sure to emphasize and kind of bringing everything back to that original problem that you outlined, and then continuing to use your category to continue to build the SEO profile for it. So we actually did this through mostly through ads rather than using specific pieces of content, but both of them can be pretty effective, and you can even updating your website, creating all the language that you have around your product to start to mention the category and the solution. So education is really the name of the game here. We use a lot of content to specifically target each of these 3 stages, especially when there's different levels of awareness within the market. But it doesn't end once you've got content in those 3 stages. Even now, we continue to develop stages for different levels of awareness. You've got people coming into the market that have no idea about what you've been talking about, and you've got others that have been around for a long time. So you need to continue to adapt and create new content for each of the stages. And I think that's pretty key.
Nice. Thank you, Thomas. That was a great sneak peek into some marketing execution and marketing strategy you've been working on. Iskren, you have something very interesting to share with the audience too, in terms of a bit of a sneak peek into one of your core marketing strategies. So tell us about it.
First of all, I want to say that this is the category creation thing is a very well structured way of thinking, and I'm really also personally interested in what you just said and how you explained it. And we've seen a lot, especially on the SEO front, even with a word such as media intelligence, for example, which is something that's been used over the years. It's not that new, but a lot of our competitors are pushing different words. So focusing on media intelligence, becoming the media intelligence, let's say SEO expert, let's say, and promoting this word has given us good exposure. If you see, for example, some of our search analytics, people still search a lot of the word media monitoring, even if they're not exactly looking for media monitoring. So, there isn't really much of a difference when you search between media monitoring, media evaluation, media insights, media intelligence. These 4 key terms to describe our different services in the business. So it's been a tough process, of course, but we see more and more people actually searching for the word media intelligence. So it's becoming a relevant keyword in the same time that we do our educational campaigns, which is something that, talking about measurable impact, this is one way how you can measure as well the impact of your campaigns. So from the Ruepoint side, what we've been really focusing on is sustainable brand building. And I know this may sound a little bit vague and as a broad concept, but it's a very simple thing. So most marketers, let's say, especially people who have a lot of experience in the B2C field, in the e-commerce, fast-growing, fast-paced marketing, they think in terms of, I really hate this word, but growth hacking. So I even have on my LinkedIn about me page, I even have a growth hackers not welcome. So because if you speak about brand, if you speak about creating something that is impactful, something that has a voice, that is present, you cannot hack your way to this. You need to build it sustainably. You need to build it on the pillars of, first of all, values, then good, consistent practices, a lot of content, a lot of expertise, showing everyone, not just the organization speaking in its words, but also the people within it, creating thought leaders in your organization. All of these different aspects that make your brand seem real, make your brand seem living. Our biggest challenge that we faced, especially since I came into this role in Ruepoint, is that we had this transition from the domestic market that we are a fairly big leader on, where marketing wasn't really needed. Because on Ireland, so this is, of course, Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, demand generation was done via mouth to mouth. And a lot of the big companies were very well acquainted with everyone's manager, let's say, because it's a small market after all. People know each other, and there aren't that many competitors as well on the market. There are only 3 companies who can provide the services that we provide in general. And people knew everyone. So marketing wasn't really needed. There wasn't a need for a brand. There wasn't a need for a digital presence, let's say. But with the expansion to the global business, more than ever, we found the need that we need to be recognized and that we need to be, for example, front of mind when we've been invited to tenders of big organizations, or in the minds of clients who can't really get away with talking to, let's say, their friend who is a manager of a company, and then they telling them, of course, what service they use. So for us, this has been a challenge to create this sustainable brand, of course, not out of nothing, but out of far less than, for example, other companies start with. We did a very significant piece around the Ruepoint Lighthouse. As probably some of you know, but the Ruepoint name actually comes from a lighthouse in Ireland, which we rebranded as a way of shedding light into the sea of global media, for example. It's navigating as well. So all of these things create a brand image which is revolving around positive values, such as shedding light, informing, guiding, navigating, all of these positive words that people feel reassured about it. And again, it all comes down to trust. So that's done, of course, through a lot of effort on all fronts, not just on a website, not just in terms of content marketing on LinkedIn and other platforms, but also through the entire organization being educated into the brand and preaching the brand, not just as sales representatives, but also as insight consultants, media analysts. Everyone who is involved in the team internally has been through series of exercises and content to make them aware of the brand, to make them familiar with the brand and associate themselves with the brand. So I think that's been a very successful strategy for us to start getting the recognition that we want on the global market. And of course, it hasn't been enough time for it to really kickstart and to see results. Also, Amrita, you also mentioned that this is something that can come back in 6 months, a year, and then you start seeing all these leads coming. So we've just started this process a little over 6 months ago, and we already see great results with this slower paced, more mindful type of brand building. And I think that's, if I can give one advice to anyone who is creating a brand, that is, take it slow, make it organic, make it consistent, and make it sustainable. Because fast success always has negative implications, and it doesn't build in sustainable enough foundation for the brand.
That's fantastic, Iskren. Thank you. And really great and open sharing there by both of you. Thank you. A lot of transparency about what respective organizations are doing. And I think that that's going to be very helpful. I think we have some time for some Q&A now. So I might move on to that and just rapid fire select a couple of questions from those that we've gotten coming through. So the first one is about competition and marketing. So, you know, you both actually just today shared a lot of, I guess, I don't want to call it internal secrets, but your strategies, right? So what is your thoughts on competitors that might be following what you all do, which is quite innovative and potentially looking to replicate that, or even someone not from, you know, the media intelligence industry who might be watching this video and think, okay, that's a strategy I'm going to do. Thoughts on that? Iskren, I'll start with you.
Well, I've always said that marketing is, in terms of the actions that you do to market and the things that you do, is not difficult. It's exactly the opposite of difficult. The actions itself are, you know, the learning curve to know what to do in marketing is not a lot. The difference between a good marketer and you know, less capable, let's say, because I don't want to use the word bad because it's very negative, is the amount of creativity that they have constantly flowing. So if you work in marketing, you understand that if you create something, it's not going to last, because the pace is incredibly fast. Strategies change all the time. Algorithms change all the time. Just Google itself will change its ads policy in, let's say, 3 months, and then your entire, for example, strategy crumbles. But you need to be able to be adaptable and to lead through adaptation, and to always lead, not just create something and then sit on the back of it. You need to always push yourselves to innovate, and that is what makes the good marketing strategy stand out, and that's what makes it successful. Of course, we have had issues like that in the past where competitors have picked up on our activities or even directly copied some of our slogans and initiatives. But we take that as the highest form of flattery, and we don't really take offense to that much, because it happens. You cannot stop it, and you need to push forward, innovate. And after all, you are the one who invented, let's say, this concept or this. So you know best how to implement it into content, how to position it out in the to the audience. So there are a lot of ways to prevent competitors benefiting from you, but they will always do that, because that's also part of us as marketers, is to monitor competitors. Monitor competitors, see what they're doing well.
Too, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is part of the job. That is not a secret. That is not something dirty that we do. It is part of the job, literally. So it's not about regret. It's about moving forward, and it's about being on the front foot.
Yeah, I think you make a great point as well there. I mean, everyone is learning from each other at the end of the day, whether you're in the same market or not. Everyone's getting inspiration from all over the place. But if you're seeing, your strategy or your concepts used elsewhere, I think it's also a really great indication that your content is getting cut through, and even competitors are seeing how effective that is in the market as well. If I might just bring it back to category creation, the whole point of putting on this or getting started with this strategy is that you are the first in that category. And that really gives you a head start amongst competitors and gives you a bit of a safety net to get started with.
Great, thank you, Thomas. So another question here asking about the size of your respective marketing teams and like how many people are involved in kind of creating this content, creating these strategies. If you can give me your kind of, couple of sentence reply on that one, please, Thomas. How big is our marketing team at Medianet?
So our marketing team is 3 people, and there's 2 of us that focus on different parts of the business. But at the end of the day, there's 2 of us that are involved with the insights strategy. But I do extend that,
right? Yeah.
I do extend that to even the rest of the insights team. I'd love to get the account directors and even the analysts, the experts involved in everything we do.
Great. Iskren, how big is the marketing team at Ruepoint?
Well, it is 3 people as well. However, from next year, there will be 4. So we are steadily growing.
Don't tell Thomas that.
Well, look, I mean, it is about efficiency at the end of the day. And we do, I think everyone in the team does a great work on efficiency. And also what Thomas said, we have such an important resource in our organizations, in all of these people who are so capable of writing content, producing content, analyzing content. So we always involve some of our media analysts, for example, in the content initiatives that we have. We have a lot of also internal initiatives. We do have an employee spotlight as well every 2 weeks, where we spotlight people from the organization and get a little bit of again, human touch into the brand as we speak. On the 25th, it's actually coming up very soon. We have a very large Christmas party, which is the first for our organization. Of course, we're a fully remote organization, so most of us have never seen each other in person. And now we're all coming together in one venue. And that's the type of brand and team building that also benefits the brand, benefits the exposure, and benefits marketing at the end of the day, because all of these people are on board with you and they are ready to help you if you need further assistance. So that makes the size of the team less important here than, of course, how you utilize all of these other resources.
Great. Okay. I'm going to try and squeeze in this last question about how do you interact with your sales teams. I'm going to try and squeeze this in. Top tip for dealing with sales team. Just one tip. Iskren, we're going to start with you, please.
The top tip, I think, is understanding, is listening to each other and working together, not as separate entities. Nice. I think that's short and sweet. I think that's the most important key to success.
Okay, Thomas.
Yeah, 100%. I'd say, bring them into your circle. They engage with clients day in, day out. They have so many great ideas. So get them involved in what you're doing. If you do have a really big team, obviously it's a bit harder to bring a lot of people into that circle, but maybe pick 1 or 2, marketing champions that you can get involved with what you're doing, and they can kind of lead that and educate the rest of the sales team.
Fantastic. Thank you. Look, I think that's all we're going to have time for questions today. So if I didn't get to your question, I apologize, but I will make sure that Thomas and Iskren personally reach out to you afterwards, one-on-one, and respond. And trust me, you do want to take up that opportunity to chat with either of them. So it's an opportunity I would highly recommend. Thank you, Thomas and Iskren, for the really great knowledge share, the tips, the advice, being so open with what you're doing in your respective organizations and sharing that with your audience. That was just so fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for watching either live or on replay. And we just check out more of the AMEC Measurement Month content that's out there. Really look forward to seeing you at the next Ruepoint or Medianet webinar. Thank you and have a lovely day ahead. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.